What's up, guys? Welcome back to more Reddit stories about entitled people, insane people, and everything in between. And as usual, we'll be checking out some more Reddit posts today, so be sure to share your thoughts about today's stories down in the comments, and we're getting right into it. Take you to court? Okay. In 2006, my big sister had just started driving on her own. My parents did as most parents did at the time. They bought her the biggest pile of crap car that they could find. Relatively reliable, but it was a mid-80s Geo Metro. It was a beater, rusty, dented, and dinged, very ugly, and importantly for this story, one of the mirrors was duct taped on. One afternoon in the fading light, she was driving to our local Pizza Hut to pick up her paycheck. On that fateful day as the sun was going down, someone in a big black Suburban type of vehicle backed into her front driver's side pretty hard. So hard, in fact, that the car was completely totaled. But luckily, my sister was fine. Both parties had insurance. They called the police to take an official report, and my parents started the hunt for a new car. Some time passes, and they get a letter from the Suburban's insurance agency, asking for our insurance to cover the cost of the damage done to the Suburban. The Suburban driver was alleging that my sister had been speeding through the parking lot and was therefore at fault. This was news to them. They grilled my sister, who swore up, down, and sideways that she was not speeding. And actually, that she was going much slower than normal, because as the sun was setting, it was hitting the windshield in such a way that made visibility difficult. After some digging, they found in the police report the sheriff's deputy had noted that the mirror that was duct taped on fell straight down. So not only had my sister not been speeding, but she was very nearly or completely stopped at the time of the accident. My parents' insurance sent a letter back stating that my sister had not been at fault for this accident, and they were willing to accept the total they had paid for the car several months earlier, a paltry sum of $350. The lady who hit my sister responded back that she would not be paying for anything, as she was very confident that she was not at fault, and told my parents that they would just have to take her to small claims court. My parents responded, "Bet," and did just that. In order to get all of the paperwork in line for small claims court, they had to take this crappy little Geo Metro to an auto body shop and get an estimation for how much it would cost to replace the panels that this lady had totaled. Well, a car that old was difficult to find parts for, and so they were unable to find anything to replace the panels and the door. So they gave her a quote for how much it would be to repair those panels, as well as replace the tire and suspension bits that she messed up by backing into it. About $4,000. Just before court, they did attempt to go to mediation with her, to attempt to get her to just pay the $350 that they had initially bought the car for. Unfortunately, or fortunately, she was still convinced that she was not at fault. Long story short, my parents were awarded the full $4,000, as it was determined that the lady did not check behind her thoroughly enough before backing out of the parking spot. And that's how my parents made $3,000 on a $300 car. Supervisor told me sarcastically to call the fire department. I did. Worked in retail in between jobs way back when, early 90s. Yeah, I'm old, get off my lawn. It was December, major department store that is no longer around. Anyways, they tried to cram as much product on the floor as possible, to the point that you couldn't walk through the aisles and had to twist and turn to get past the fixtures set up with product. I casually mentioned to a supervisor that if the fire department ever came in, they would close us down for the hazards and lack of egress. She was highly stressed and blurted out to me, "You know what? Then call the fire department." I held my hands up and said, "Easy." She assigned me my duties and that was that. Well, she did tell me to call. On the way home, I stopped by a government building that had all sorts of agencies in it, told the receptionist my plight, and she pointed to a phone on the wall. Tell the operator I want the fire department and they would patch me through to the station's non-emergency line. The fire chief himself answered. I told him how crowded it was and what the supervisor said. He had a good laugh and said they'd check it out. I was off the next day, but I heard about it when I got back. Fire chief and a station house full of firefighters show up to do an inspection. He tells the store manager that egress is being blocked and he'd have to remove a lot of the fixtures in the aisles. Store manager says he has orders from corporate, fixtures stay. Fire chief assures him he will win the argument. Store manager stands his ground. Fire chief says, "All right boys, close them down." They evacuated the store, all 3 levels, and closed all entrances. In December, prime Christmas shopping season. Although it wasn't a weekend day, it was during the week, but still. Store manager tried to protest and suddenly the sheriff's department starts showing up. Long story short, they were closed for 5.5 hours, while the chief, store manager, and employees rearranged the store to acceptable levels. The supervisor never treated me differently, so I'm guessing she didn't remember the conversation. The store manager, surprisingly, did not get fired by corporate, but corporate was not happy. About a week later, I'm working with the store manager and supervisor when she asks why we can't do something a certain way. The store manager replied, "The fire department won't allow that," and that was it. You said only reply with exactly what they ask? Got it. I used to work at a logistics company where we handled shipping for big retail clients. One client was notoriously rude and always sent short, unclear emails asking for updates. Then they'd get angry if we gave too much information or didn't phrase things exactly how they wanted. After one too many complaints, our manager pulled us into a meeting and told us, "From now on, just answer exactly what they ask. Nothing more, nothing less. No extra info, no small talk, only what's in their message." I asked, even if I know they're going to follow up asking for the rest? And he said, yes, let them. So the next morning, that same client emailed me, "Where is truck 4810? That's all they wrote, no greeting, no detail. So I replied, "On the road." A few minutes later, "ETA?" I replied, 3:42 p.m. Then came, "Driver's name?" I answered that. Then, "Does it have the right pallets?" Yes. "Dock 3 or 6? Dock 3. "Did you inform the receiver?" Yes. This went on for 10 back and forth emails, each one with a single question, each one answered with exactly what they asked. Eventually they CC'd my manager and wrote, "Why are your employees being so unhelpful? We need proactive communication." My manager replied, "We've instructed our staff to answer exactly what's asked, as per your previous requests." After that, their emails suddenly became more polite and clear, and my inbox became a lot quieter too. If you want to make it a whole thing, go ahead and call the cops. My usually not irresponsible teenager lost his phone and just realized it while competing in a district track meet he was invited to, discus. This fueled my urgency to find his phone more than its value or anything else. I had my daughter use her Find My Phone app to see it at a local convenience store. I refreshed the search to see that it was hovering around the space of the store and the parking lot, almost back and forth between two locations. I tell my daughter I'm taking her phone with me to the store to retrieve it in between my son's events, 100-meter discus and shot put. I arrive through the doors, phone up and in hand like I'm on a timed scavenger hunt. The clerk gets suddenly shifty, looking at me, then looking away, then looking at his customer. Understandable with how I entered. I jumped in line, patiently waiting for the customer in front of me to interview the clerk about the state lottery system. A barrage of ridiculous questions that even I couldn't write up. Finally, it's my turn, and now I'm the only customer in here. I also noticed that upon refreshing the app I was using, it hasn't moved since I entered the store. I begin with what would be a line of my own questions. "Hey, my son lost his iPhone and this app says it's near here. Has anyone turned in a phone?" The lying clerk says, "Nope." I retort, "Could you look around and see, because I've refreshed this over the past 20 minutes and it's here." Liar McLiarstein continues his poorly spun web of lies. "I don't know anything about it, man, so quit bothering me. You lost your phone, get over it." "Dude, it's here, where's my phone?" "If you want to make it a whole thing, go ahead and call the cops, see what they do." "Oh, let's do that." Now I know that I can ping the phone to make noise, but I don't know if he's got it in his car, in the back room locked up, or somewhere I can't go without getting arrested, like behind his counter. I call the cops and explain the situation as well as my suspicions. The police ask what app I used, if I have any more evidence that it's in his possession. I explained that I didn't want to ping it yet until they could help. They agreed to send a car out. I wait outside at the next door Dutch Bros out of his line of sight, hoping he was convinced I left. The police arrive and I flag them to me, showing him the app. They also took my ID, which was weird, but whatever. We end up entering the store together as I ping the phone. Blip moo 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 moo, blip moo 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 moo. It's in his office. He answers questions as he gets handcuffed. I get the phone back to the track meet in time to just miss him getting second in discus. Do all the work yourself or get 0%. In high school, I was in a science class that I did very well in. I was top of the class and scored nearly 100% on every test and assignment. The teacher assigned a big group project that would take about a week to complete with a team of 4 students. Groups were randomly assigned, and unfortunately, I was paired up with 3 kids who were barely passing the class. In class, we are given time to make plans together as a group to divide up work, examine the instructions, schedule times outside of school to meet up, etc. It was at this point my teammates decided to tell me that they weren't going to do any work on the project. I asked why, and they said they knew I really cared about my grade, so they figured I would do it on my own. They were so lazy they were banking on the fact I wouldn't tank my own grade, so they could benefit off of my hard work when I inevitably got a good score on the project. I was pissed and said that was unfair. They dug in and said, "Too bad. Now you either do this project yourself or you'll get a 0. Cue malicious compliance. Now I could have gone to the teacher and he probably would have sorted this out, but a better idea struck me. So I said, "Fine, you win. I'll do what you say." They smiled smugly and thought that was that. But you see, this teacher had a policy that at the end of the semester, your lowest grade, excluding finals, would be taken off your record. So if you forgot to turn in an assignment or did really bad on one test, you got a mulligan so it wouldn't ruin your final grade. I had never done poorly on an assignment all year, so I never needed my mulligan. However, I knew that these shitheads all did. If they got a big fat 0 on a crucial assignment, they would probably fail the class. So I did exactly as they instructed. I did no work on the project all week, just sat on it and bided my time. At the beginning of the next week, all the students turned in their assignments. My team watched as I sat in my chair, unmoving. Finally, one said, "Hey, OP, aren't you going to turn in the project?" "Oh, I didn't do the project." They were shocked and asked why the hell I didn't do it. "You said do all the work or get a 0. I choose 0. They were all royally pissed. They all had to do credit recovery over the summer. They hated my guts, but I couldn't have cared less. It was the most satisfying failing grade in my entire life. Anyway, that's going to be it for today, guys. Thank you for watching. As always, I do really appreciate it. If you enjoyed, be sure to drop a like on the video and also subscribe to the channel if you haven't already for more Reddit content like this. So I'm out of here. Take care, friends, and I'll see you next time.